agenda that we get reports from various working groups. I know there are some working groups that are actually getting a lot done, and others that may be just getting started up and looking for new members. So let's start with some working group. Is there any particular working group that would like to tell us what it has been doing? I see several working groups that have lots and lots of people in them. Well, I know for sure that the Web World working group has been doing quite a bit. So how about the Web World? Would you all like to tell us what you've been doing? I know you've got some people there that know. Now I'm monitoring, following the Web Worlds. Okay. Yes. Well, Dieter is the one that really knows everything. And I believe Dieter is here. Yep, Dieter's here, Edward Tarber.
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everybody.
Hi. Well, what have you all been doing, working on this recently? And how far are you? Actually, I know something about this, so I'd like to get the word out.
Yeah, we're also still at the beginning, but of course we have done some work so far. Bob has set up a dedicated server, especially for our working group. Mm-hmm. And Yvonne and I have been working on some of the software issues. So we started working with an exported OR file from an OpenSim grid, and we started parsing the contents and also had some success displaying the first objects from this OR file.
Ah, so you've got some. Are you also able to work with objects that are exported in XML form by, for example, Firestorm?
Not yet. Only some basic data extracted from these objects, but at least we are able or already able to get the XML from the OR file and transform it into usable JSON objects for further processing in the browser.
Oh, so actually you actually have extracted some objects from OR files and
yes.
XML format and then put them into Web Worlds. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, we are also just fighting with the data structure for the assets, because this is not very well documented. So we have to go through the JSON structure by hand to extract the data we will need in the future. So in the assets, there are more different information. There are also the textures for the objects, but I think we are making good progress, and yeah, that's all for now.
Okay, so you're actually, though, in the direction of being able to import a virtual world SIM, or at least part of a SIM like we've got here, into a Web World, and they would look similar, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that sounds very good.
Do you have regular meetings somewhere, Dieter?
Yes, they do. What is the time of your regular meeting?
Thursday at, good, depending on the time zone. I think it's 9 a.m. Second Life time.
Thursday, 9 a.m. Second Life time. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And okay. So we can all translate from Second Lifetime, because we came from Second Life. We all escaped from Second Life.
So what location do you use to meet up?
What did you say, Mel?
We're meeting on Skype so far.
Oh, okay, fine, right, okay.
So if you're wanting to keep up, you can find out what's happening there.
We need to get back into the IMA calendar as well.
Yeah, we should get that into the IMA and actually, let's see, over here.
By the way, yeah, the IMA the webcom resource, instead of Skype, if you want white page and screen sharing and a bunch of other little things, Webcom is really good, and it's quite available.
Oh, and let me point out here's a poster, web poster. I hope you can see it. And if you'll zoom in, you can read it. This is Sean Maloney's social web and virtual world events, music and meeting calendar, and all sorts of things else in addition. You should be able to take a copy of this if you want to. This is the agenda form out here, and it includes the IMA. If you look at it, you'll see that it also includes the IMA calendar events. So basically, it's well, we would have to consider it comprehensive, wouldn't we?
Now, for people that want to get their working group meetings on the IMA calendar, your working group leader just needs to get in touch with me or Steve or Sean. Any of us can get them into that IMA calendar so that they've access to post their meetings.
And let me point out then here for now that we're on the calendar subject, I put out here a thing that I call a web walk. It's my Eventerator web walk, and this is a collection of web pages that will help people find things they may want to go to in virtual worlds. The first two are both Sean's calendar, because Sean's calendar is by far the most comprehensive calendar I know of, but he's simply integrating lots and lots of other calendars. So as long as those other calendars are up to date, he will be up to date. The one I'm standing in front of is the agenda form, which Sean thinks is ugly, and this is the monthly form, which Sean thinks is prettier. And I would agree with pretty, but pretty but not very useful, because it only gives you, in this as displayed here, it only gives you three of a whole bunch of events, and I'm really happy to be able to point that out. I am looking, for example, at well, let's see, the first Friday in this month had 3 events and 9 more. And I'm really happy to point out that this OpenSim Hypergrid has, actually this very day has, as a matter of 3 and 11 more. So I'm really happy to point out that OpenSim is not a place where there is nobody doing anything. We've known that all along, but I can actually show visitors, because what I do with this, and you can check and see if you want a copy of this, you should be able to take a copy, but I won't guarantee that, because we have the terms have not been, government terms has not been solved yet. So
Yeah, Selby, I think you were kind of out of chat range for a few people. I was following you on camera, so I could hear you, but you
okay.
Off the radar.
All right, I'll reiterate the object that I walked over to is my Eventerator, and it is a collection of things that will tell you how to find places. Events in Hypergrid, actually, I think almost all. And the first two calendar objects are Sean's calendar in 2 different forms, and that is probably the most useful if you want to find out about events and upcoming recently or in the near future. And it's very I have copies of the calendar, which I can wear, so that I can res it whenever I'm talking to somebody. If they ask a question about that, I can wear it, and they can read it right there, and I can wear it whenever, no matter where I am. Well, let's see. We need to move on to somebody else. How about the Commerce Committee? Now I see we got a number of people in the Commerce Committee, and I know they've been doing some things.
I'm looking around. Is Mike here?
Yeah, I think Mike is here, but he may not be here. I know Mike is here. I see him here, but I think
I'm
his
here.
avatar. Oh, you want to tell us what you're doing?
I have my mic off because I'm.
Ah,
Oh, I'm just doing some Bitcoin accounting at the moment. So while I'm listening in.
I don't. You want to tell us what the Commerce Group is doing?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Maybe his mic is muted.
And maybe his mic is muted again. Yes.
Maybe he's got the same problem I do, and his mic just quits working when he's pressing down on it.
A quick click on your middle mouse button normally toggles it on permanently until you toggle it off again. Or maybe not.
Or maybe not. Oh, well. Mike, are you getting to us? Are you going to talk to us? Well, let's see.
Thanks, I forgot about the middle mouse button thing.
Ah,
Is
okay.
that working? Is that working?
Yeah, that was Evan. Yeah, I forgot all about the middle mouse button. I can do that and not worry about the other problem.
Yes.
I'm dealing with some accounting issues on the side here, so that may be killing my mic when I'm away from the window. So I've talked with Chris Colosi at Globit, and he's interested in participating. Also, the whoever runs Podex is also interested, as well as Elon Toshner at Kitely. And then I've also received communications from the CEO of Game Credits, which is a blockchain-based game money company that provides monetary services to hundreds of mobile and other games, and they have an interest in entering the OpenSim economy as well. And so we're getting a good amount of interest from the various monetary providers. I haven't seen much from grid owners, much interest from grid owners in participating, but I created a G+ group for the Commerce Working Group, and I sent the link around. If you haven't received it, let me know and I can send it to you. We've got, I think, over 20 members so far, and so we're making some good progress there in building the working
Mike,
groups.
Can you throw that in chat? That'd be good if you throw that in local chat.
You can the link to that group, that Google group.
Okay, hold on, let me find it.
So you have a goodly number of people moving into that Google group, and for some of those, maybe actually working on the Commerce Group. In fact, I believe what you're saying is you're bringing in some new blood, new people who have not been in OpenSim. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things that several of us want to be pushing.
The downside, if I heard right, and I apologize for kind of jumping in here, being on New Guy, but the downside, if I'm right on what I heard, was also that the folks who actually are familiar with virtual worlds are not actually jumping on board so much. So I wonder what the undercurrent might be there.
Well, I think he's referring specifically to commercial grid owners. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah, any grid that's seeking to develop a virtual economy, whether it's through one of the third-party money like Globit or Podex, or if they have their own home-built in-world money system.
That would be people that you would like to be interested in this project, of course, because they will have the say as to whether that a particular currency could be used in their grid. So, and what you're saying is you're not getting much interest from them yet.
Yeah,
And
I
do.
mean, there's a few grid owners there, and let me take a look at the
and
list here.
I would point out that I just used an important word, yet. You're not getting interest from them yet. That's not the same as you're not getting interest from them. And I emphasize that's really different.
I think grid owners are the sort of people who tend to come in when there's an exchange system kind of there. I know on Great Canadian Grid, for example, it was Podex, but they've now adopted qubits and stuff like that because of demand. Whereas I don't think it would have occurred to them to, when they set up the grid, they chose the currency they were going to use on their grid, and they're too busy running their own grid and their own internal economy. And I think on the opposite end, you have other platforms. I'm thinking of Space, Sineways Affair, for example, where they have gold and silver, and I think gold is tied to real world currency, or will be eventually. And I think probably the main thing is in talking with all these people in a working group is to probably aim for cooperation on a kind of the idea of a currency exchange. Because if I think of someone like Space, I mean, it would seem like their monetization plan is purely based really on the money they will make on commission in their virtual goods. And so they're not likely to want to share that with anybody else, but they may well be willing to share exchanges of currency, if you see what I mean. So somebody who's got a load of money in one place might want to exchange it for credits they can use in Space or something like that. So I think there's I think it's a sort of infrastructure down kind of thing. And I suspect that when it comes to the hypergrid, individual sims, especially commercial sims, they'll take it up when it's there and there's a demand for it.
Well, clearly they would be interested in it if it is commercially attractive to them, and exactly. Otherwise they won't be. And these people are smart too. They are able to make a pretty good assessment as to whether it should be commercially attractive to them.
Yeah.
The thing that I like about the idea of using something with a blockchain is that it's universal. I mean, whether I'm not saying we would use Bitcoin, but just as an example, you could use something like Bitcoin across whatever grid you're on, which is something that OpenSim desperately needs right now. I have a couple of entertainers that have PayPals, but they're having trouble getting their PayPals to work, and so I'm paying them in Lindens in Second Life because that's what they request. They don't have another way to go across multiple grids. So I love the idea of using a cryptocurrency for something like this, or some sort of home-built currency that can be used across multiple grids.
Well, actually, way beyond multiple grids, anywhere on the internet. So something like that could be used on any web page that you want to that wants to use it, including web worlds, and coming back to one of my favorite topics, and just old plain old web pages. Which means that has a considerably greater prospects of use than Lindens or specific grid specific currencies. Now, the one thing that I would be more than a little bit concerned about, is that untraceable coin are going to be potentially legal problems at some point.
Okay, if I can, I actually was with the original team that developed the prototype to Bitcoin, which was known as BitGold back in 2005. This was 3 years before the Satoshi paper came out. So I'm probably exceedingly familiar with how blockchains work. And there is no such thing as completely anonymous money in blockchains, despite what people may think. Your wallet is essentially, it can be anonymous in terms of the name of the person. Does not need to be connected to the key of the wallet, but every single coin that's created in a given blockchain, the whole point of the blockchain is to document the chain of custody of every coin from its moment of conception to the current time. So you can trace actually the entire lifetime network of each coin throughout the whole history of the blockchain.
And that gives us some useful information.
You have to have, I've been doing a little research on this week as well. You also have, if you set up a wallet, you have to have an address that is unique to you. So I can be quote unquote anonymous as far as my name and information goes, but they know where that money is going. So
and where that money is going, will be able to tell, will be able to link to me because I can link to that.
Right.
I get a bit worried because I forget the name of it already, but that attack a few weeks ago that over here took down our health service and all, you knows what. The ransomware actually asked the people, I think they had to pay $300 or something. That's it, WannaCry. They had to pay $300 or something, and they had to send it to a Bitcoin account, which suggests to me that whoever was doing that attack was quite safe. They can be quite happy that they couldn't be traced through people's payments.
Well, the problem right now is that there is insufficient regulatory framework to trace that. But the entire reason that we came up with the idea of having a blockchain was so that if your digital money, if your computer was hacked and the money was stolen, you could report that and the proper authorities could then trace it down, because the only way for a thief to spend that money is through the blockchain. So they can then locate your money and return it to you. The problem is that the governments have not had any interest in getting involved and creating those sort of mechanisms. So that's really not a failure of the blockchain, but a failure of government.
Well, part of what I'm figuring out on a lot of this stuff is that they're not interested because they're not smart enough to really understand what the benefits of a currency like this would be.
Well, also, they know that they will not be the ones that control it. You notice that all of the governments have fiat currency, which they issue and control. That won't be possible, and I don't think they really like that idea.
Well, the fact is that with the amount of unfunded liabilities that government is facing in the coming 10 to 20 years, there's really no economically sustainable method for government to meet their financial obligations without converting their national currencies into blockchains. It's an incontrovertible economic fact. And so it's not a matter of whether they like it or not. If they don't do it, they're going to collapse, period.
I think it's a case of putting off the inevitable.
It's just and taking it out of the monetary for just a second. It's kind of like the same sort of thing that we're seeing going on right now with communications commerce. You know, the internet is ruling over the media class, and it's driving them nuts. And I think the same thing is true. Although instead of driving them nuts, like you said, it's going to lead to financial collapse. I totally agree.
Yeah, because the cool thing with a blockchain is that it doesn't just have to have transaction data in it for monetary transactions, you can embed what were called smart contracts in the blockchain. So you can devise your algorithm to process any sort of data, whether it is a marriage contract, a trade contract, a bet, any sort of a government administrative function like a driver's license registration, paying your taxes, whatever. And so,
and more secure for the user, yeah.
Yeah, and so therefore what the governments will do is they are going to need to adopt the national blockchain and embed the bureaucratic administrative functions in the national blockchain so that citizens can interact directly with their government through the blockchain. And by doing so, they can drastically downsize the size of the bureaucracy, and all of the tax savings can go into funding those that mine the blockchain. And then what you do is all the people that are going to need entitlements, whether it's unemployment, welfare, disability, Social Security, can then be enabled to earn their benefits by mining the blockchain, the national cryptocurrency blockchain. And so then they're actually creating real value rather than simply being an economic sink. And so that is what makes the system economically sustainable through the coming decades.
And it's what people are not aware of, which I think is really interesting. I'm glad you brought up the mining aspect of it, Mike, because I've been playing around this week with different, or at least looking at different currencies and mining and that type of stuff. And there's actually an OS built out there specifically for mining called ETHOS, and you can mine whatever cryptocurrency you want. So the mechanism for what he's talking about is already out there, and it's already being fleshed out. It actually can be done.
Yeah, Ethereum is the first example of using smart contracts in a blockchain, and there's a number of subsidiary blockchains that are built on the Ether platform now, and it's just growing like gangbusters. And I was meeting with the CEO of Ethereum this past week, and they're actually joining the board of my company, Tokens.vc. We're basically going to be digitizing private equity and creating what are called stock tokens, or stokens, is what we've coined the new term for having equity in the blockchain. And so Ethereum and probably all the top 20 blockchain companies by now have signed on. My CEO has been in New York all week dealing with contracts for each one of these companies, and so this is getting to be really interesting in what's going on, and the possibilities are really starting to take off.
Okay, do we have another group that would like to report on something?
I posted in the chat just for the .org group to pass information to folks that they are building a community website. We gave them full access to do that yesterday.
So a community website, and that will mean one that can promote various aspects of OpenSim, and especially the things, well, whatever the working groups want to work on, the working groups can use this to promote as another source to promote their activities.
And for the working groups that are working on things that they don't think are aligned with the community, they will have access on the .com side to promote their work there as well.
Oh, okay. Well, we got one more group that I would like to talk about, and I see we have this is the testing group, and it is not really formed yet, so it's not been it's not been very active, although I've published a few things on it. And I'm glad to see Ariel and Jamie appearing here, so we're beginning to form a group. And we've really got two kinds of things that we will have to do eventually. One kind of thing is to work out the procedure for making specific kinds of tests. For example, a quality assurance test, which is what we're really working on now, because the devs actually are coming up with test scripts that could be used for quality assurance regarding the we hope successful modifications that have will have cured the problem of permissions changing in objects or other kinds of things. And I don't have any understanding of the problem at all. I hope the devs do. But it's looks to me to be a very complex problem, and I'm pretty sure they will need quite a bit of testing. The idea would be that they will be writing test scripts, and we will be then looking for people who would run the test scripts. And I think there's probably a number of us who would be happy to run test scripts for them. They will probably need them run on several different kinds of operating systems and system configurations. That's the only item that we have immediately at hand, but of course we will be looking to develop other test configurations, test suites that we would be able to use, that would all of which would be archived in IMA, and also any results that are produced by them would be archived in IMA if we can make some useful use of them. The initial thing is we'll have to develop the scripts, the organization of the scripts and the suites and so forth. We won't be able to develop the suites, of course. They would have to be developed by devs or other people who know how to work with all that stuff. But we would be taking the responsibility for archiving them and getting people to run them if they need to, or getting them run. Some test suites would need to be run on a single machine that has copies of several systems, several things like Halcyon and OpenSem Dev version and so forth. And in that case, we might run them all on the IMA server, having a convenient arrangement, conveniently being able to use that machine for as many OS OpenSim systems as we want. And I'm certainly looking for more people to join this, so I'm basically announcing a need for more people. Do we have anybody else that wants to?
Yeah, I have something to add there, Selby.
Yeah.
For the folks that did not participate in the test hour over the last 2 weeks that we did in IMA Outpost Alpha, we found some surprising results. We're going to be running another test this coming week, and I posted a link to the article that talks about the details. What we hope to do after this third test is to be able to develop a test preparation sheet, or what you're referring to as a test suite, for your test management group to go off and do some testing on multiple grids with different versions of OpenSim and derivatives running in them, so that we can see what this data tells us, that we can pass on to the various dev teams.
Yes, and actually probably not just to the dev teams, but to corporations that are interested in finding that out, so they can make decisions about working with OpenSim.
Right.
I hope. All right. Any other information? Any other? Well, I guess we are conveniently finishing early. And we don't have to go. We don't have, actually. We can go to the social hour or the social more than an hour this time if you want to. Is there any other formal business that we have to deal with? Well, then let's go to the social hour, which you can do right here. Well, unfortunately, virtual alcohol is not very intoxicating.
Although there are some scripts that are pretty funny.
Yes, yes.
And that might be a good thing, actually. You'd never get a DUI on a virtual drink.
You're absolutely right.
Or driving a virtual vehicle.
You can't get a buzz out of one either. No. Okay, well, let's close the show or go to. Oh, Sean says he's got music in town. He says we can go to his place. Well, you can do what you like. I only deal in business, and I guess our business is finished for the present. Thanks everybody for coming, and let's try to keep up with what's happening.